What's up, everybody? Welcome to the show. That is Mike Fuji up top. I am Mel Norfleet, and together we are at the 50 with Fuji and Fleet. It's normally a Philly football show, but today we're going to be relating to the Philadelphia Flyers. And our guest today is known for her introspective lyrics, soaring vocals. Some of her songs has been seen on TV and soap operas such as Joan of Arcadia, Party of Five, All My Children, and One Life to Live. And her critically acclaimed national anthem has been featured in the Disney movie Miracle. Please help me welcome Miss Lauren Hart.
Lauren, welcome to the show. Thank you for coming on. We appreciate it.
Oh, I'm so glad we finally got together and made it. Al and I have been talking about this for a long time.
Yes.
I know, that's what he was saying.
I got it right now. I got it right.
Absolutely. And before we get into the question, I also want to say that Lauren and I guess maybe for the past 15 or 20 years, we've been sitting right next to each other in the press room at every Flyers home game right before she goes on stage and does the national anthem. So, and Mike and I was just talking a few minutes ago before we did this research. I had no idea you've done as much as you've done. So, I mean,
you've done quite a bit.
I have. You know, for me, I'm always surprised because when I meet people off the ice, they're always like, oh, you do other singing, you do other music. And for me, music has been my entire world and my entire life. But here in Philly, I'm best known as part of the Flyers family. And I love that. I love that too. But yeah, I've been doing making music for forever. So yeah.
When I was putting out the promo, I was calling you the first lady of the Philadelphia Flyers. So.
I love it.
So, knowing, you've been, your dad, Hall of Famer, fantastic broadcaster that he was.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, we have such history. My father, our family, the Snyder family, just from day one, the beginning, and I just feel really fortunate that I have the spot that I do and that I've been able to keep up with it all this time because I really do love the team and I love hockey and I'm just really proud. I've sung that anthem a million times. Yeah, it's kind of like when people ask someone who's had a hit song, do you hate singing that over and over and over again? But, every game is different. Each night is different. And it's really neat to, my father shared the Flyers and hockey with me as a kid. And so now I get to share it with my kids. So it really is a family affair.
Absolutely. That was going to be one of my questions about it must feel really exciting, really exuberant to now be known as the voice when your father was for over 30 some years, a different capacity, but yet your voice is still there. Like you said, it's a family affair.
It is. I love it. I remember the first time someone said that to me, that you're a voice of the Flyers. And my heart just melted because I just felt so complimented by that and so honored by that idea. And I think of my father often, what he would make of all this. I don't think he, when he was around, I had done it a few times as a teenager, as a young person. And then kind of right around the time that he passed was when I was doing it regularly. And so he got to see me do that, but he had no idea of all that it's sort of become over the years and just how special that is to me, that I hold that really close.
Yeah. Mike had sent me a video earlier today and I was trying to get it on, but I couldn't get it transferred over to MP4. But it was one of the performances where you was very young and
Yes.
your father was in the booth, and I guess he introduced you.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he did. That was at the old Spectrum. Now we're going way back.
And I think it was 1985.
Yep, and it's probably one of the, if not the first time that I did it. And I watched that video now, and I can see that, just the terror on my face. Like, I was so excited to do it because, hockey has that interesting tradition of having a singer, an anthemist. And, for years growing up, I watched other people have that spot. And, I would say to my dad, hey, I can sing. I would love to do that one time if you ever, can get me in. And, it sort of happened a couple times when I was very young. And then, I left and was forging my career and didn't come back for quite a while, and it wasn't until my dad was inducted into the Hall of Fame, the opening night of the season, the Flyers wanted to honor him. And they said, would you sing the anthem that night? And we'll have your dad walk you out, which is just, such a precious memory for me. And I did it and came off the ice, and they were like, how would you like to do it every night? And I thought, well,
that's great.
Yeah, I could do this. Yeah. So it kind of was just a magical moment,
We actually have a question.
Can you see the comments there?
I can.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
From Tyler Sherman.
Yeah.
Thank you for checking in.
That's exactly it. He went into the Flyers Hall of Fame. I'm not exactly sure the date, but he went into the Hockey Hall of Fame in Toronto. In 97. There we are.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. There we are. Yes, I love that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so that was just really, really special. That's such a great memory for me.
Lauren, you sang the national anthem in the movie Miracle. How did that come about, and what was that like in Madison Square Garden?
I remember going to the movie theater to see it, and this sweeping camera shot of New York City coming down in on Madison Square Garden in this game between the Team USA and the Russians. And here's my voice, and I just I couldn't believe it. The guys that were part of that movie went to Penn here in Philadelphia and knew of me. And when that opportunity came up, they said, we'd love to use you and your anthem for the film. And I was just thrilled. I'm still, I still can't believe when I see it come on that that's me, but I love it.
Did you have a chance to meet Kurt Russell?
I didn't.
Brooks?
No, I didn't. I did not. But I only got to meet behind the scenes people. But yeah, it's just one. It's like, if not the classic hockey movie of all time.
Right.
A really great film. So. Yeah, it's kind of history that I'm part of, and I'm honored that I got to do that.
Now, you mentioned the Spectrum a few minutes ago. Now, I have performed in the Spectrum in every venture here in Philadelphia, and I sang for every team except for one. That's because of you.
That's right. Forgot you do have that in common. Right.
We do. I'm looking at the picture behind you over your shoulder. Pretty amazing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Could you actually do a duet of the national anthem? Is that possible?
We could do a duet. Anything is possible.
Could they have that? I mean,
we haven't done it in the past, but you never know.
Absolutely.
First time for everything.
But now you have done a duet with Kate on God Bless America, correct?
That's right. Yeah, that was a split screen video, sort of in the vein of Nat King Cole and Natalie Cole, Unforgettable.
Yeah.
And the president of the team at the time, it was his idea. Thought, wouldn't that be really cool to, kind of have the two of you? And as soon as he said it, I could hear it in my mind right away how it would work.
Right.
And I remember the first time we did it was just the roof came off the building. It was so electric and so exciting and so unique to, it was really unique to any kind of opening to a sports event that I had ever seen. And it was kind of some magic moments there when we first did it, really magic.
Right.
Yeah.
Now there have been 2 series of games, one for football, one for baseball, where there was a little young kid, a blind kid. I think his name was Jake, but I can't be for sure.
Excuse me. Timmy Kelly's his name, I believe.
Okay.
Tim Kelly, yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
He sang the national anthem for one of the Eagles game. The next home game, I sang it. And then the third home game that they had, you sang it.
The trifecta.
Yes. And the same thing for a Phillies game. He sang there one week, I sang one week, and you sang the next week. So I thought about all of that today. I said, wow, man. And I'm interviewing her today.
Lauren,
it's so cool.
Lauren, did you ever ring the bell for the Sixers or sing the national anthem for them?
I've done the national. I never did ring the bell, but I have done the national anthem for them. Okay. And I've done for the Eagles and for the Phillies. I love it, and it's really nice to be asked, because I'm so associated with the hockey. So it's nice to be asked to do the others once in a while. It's fun.
Is there a memory that stands out to you, no matter what venue, that you cherish the most? Singing the national anthem? Or too many?
There's so many. When I first started, it was going to be, in my mind, a temporary thing because I had been living in LA. I'd been making records, and I kind of came home to be with family and spend some time here. It seemed like a cool thing to do at the time. It kind of fit in, and but in my mind, it was a short-term thing. But as circumstances just unfolded when I had first started, those series of events kept me here in Philly and kept me doing the anthem there. And it just sort of evolved into something I could have never imagined that I'd be doing it as long as I have done it. And there really are just so many magic moments. I mean, I can't even begin. One of the more recent ones is we had an alumni game. And I can't remember if it was how long ago it was now, a year or 2 seasons ago. I'm not quite sure, but it was pretty recent. And it was all the Stanley Cup guys on the ice, and people had come in from all over the country. It was really, really neat. And we did the God Bless America, and those guys were so choked up and so honored to be there and to have that moment. That was a really terrific moment. And they're just, great moments like that too, right after 9/11, being there and being on the ice, and then, having the president take over the game, so to speak, on the Jumbotron to address the nation. And, there was, I was out there through a battle with an illness, and, went through that season and ended the season with really good news for me. And we were in the playoffs, so that was sort of transformational for me at that time. But there really are. And, aside from the anthems, I've gotten to sing with everyone from, I don't know, Frank Sinatra to James Taylor to Diana Ross to just, the list is like pretty long of these, cool opportunities that I've gotten to have over the years. So I can't say that there's any one particular one. But it's led to a lot of really interesting ones. Yeah, really interesting and fun moments. Yeah.
Just everything you've accomplished. Like, you sang for President Bill Clinton at his inauguration.
Yep.
From opening for Fiona Apple, 10,000 Maniacs, Tori Amos. And, it's pretty amazing. And, a lot of people probably don't know this. Like you say, can you touch on that a little bit? Like, what was it like singing for
there
Bill
we
Clinton?
are. It was that was really lucky. So we were part of, or I was part of this inaugural, celebration of being sworn in, and we were there with, I think it was like the Allman Brothers, and they were on stage playing, and we were on the side just waiting, hoping to get up there. And they kept going and going and going because they were waiting. They wanted the president to be in the room and on stage with them. And so they weren't going to get off stage until he got there. And sort of, at the time he was playing that saxophone and sitting in with different bands. So I'm sure that they were trying to, sort of stretch that out so they would be the band on there when he came in. And sure enough, they got off. We got up and a song or two into it, and here he comes walking in and brought his sax and, had that whole thing at that time. So yeah, it's just, it's really interesting how, one thing leads to the next, from everything from like a presidential inauguration to a film to a hockey arena. It's just afforded me all sorts of opportunities and like put me in these really just amazing, interesting places, to get to work with people. And yeah, it's pretty broad, my career, being on stage and also theatrical stuff and recording and being a songwriter. And, I've done film scoring and documentary scoring. And, I've just tried to find ways to just keep doing what I love to do, and yeah, it's pretty cool.
Now, since you're on this subject here, talk about when you wrote, I guess, the score for Race to the Bottom of the Earth.
Yeah. So, well, my husband, who's the founder of the coffee company La Colombe, which started here in Philly, he, I first met him when he was going on this crazy trip to the South Pole, and he wanted to walk across the continent on foot and just carrying a sled, and it was going to take like 40 or 50 days or something like that, just him alone. And I thought, this guy's insane, and so I said, why don't you bring a video camera with you and sort of document, like keep a video diary? Because I thought, my first thought was, somebody being that isolated alone for that many days in this like sort of expanse of nothing but wind and white. And, it's really kind of a unique isolation. And it made me curious as to what a person would go through and how they would feel. You remember that movie Castaway? Tom Hanks, and he gets on an island and he ends up talking to a soccer
Wilson.
ball. Right. Yes, Wilson. So it I was really interested on how he was, going to get through all this. And it also gave me something to do and think about while he was gone, because it really, it was kind of stressful because it's pretty dangerous what he did. And, but he did cross the continent. He got a world record of being the first person to do it the way that he did. And, when he came home, some filmmakers from the area put together, a storyline, and, we used my music in there, and just, the film turned out to be really successful and won the LA Cinema Film Festival. And yeah, it was just, again, crazy sort of connections. One thing leads to the next. But, in the music business or in art, the business of music, that's generally how it happens. Just, it's this really kind of random sometimes connections that you make, and your decisions for doing them sometimes are not what you think they're going to be, right? So you decide, hey, I'm going to just sing a couple hockey games and keep me doing some music on the side here in Philly while I'm doing my other stuff. And that turned into like, years and years of being part of it. So I'm always have my eyes open, and my ears open to finding new ways and to do the thing that I love to do.
I researched, and you had a thing for music in second grade, correct?
I did. Yeah, I did. I do. People ask me when did I sing when I was real young, and I do remember in second grade, we had music class, and the teacher had asked me to sing by myself, like a line or something. But I remember I did it, and I felt like, I felt so proud of myself because I was kind of like a shy kid, so it wasn't like me to push my way to the front, or I wasn't the most vocal person in the room. But when I got to sing, I felt like, really, this is my space. I feel good here. And so I think the teacher had called my mom and said, "Do you know that your daughter has this voice?" And my mom said, "Yeah, I do." But I kind of really remember that first early moment of when I thought, a light bulb went off, and it just felt like I found something, really young. Yeah.
Was there a history of like music in your family's background at all?
Well, my dad was a closet opera singer.
That's right. Like I forgot about that.
Yeah, he loved music, and actually performed in a couple things on the side with the Philadelphia Orchestra and the Philadelphia Opera Company. Was a great supporter of the arts in the city, and so got to fulfill some of his, dreams to be part of those things. And his parents, his mom and his dad, were both theater people. His mom was an opera singer. His dad was like a show producer, and his sister was an actress in Hollywood. So it wasn't. I remember I got my first record deal, and the guy that was running the marketing or something said, "So, what's your story?" They wanted some dramatic. Well, I've come from here and I've made it all the way. And I thought, well, I don't really have that interesting a story. I said I had a nice family, and I grew up in a nice, neighborhood. And, it wasn't until I really, really thought about it and really investigated my family further that I realized how far back we went in entertainment. And my mom, in her own way, was not a singer or an actress or anything, but my mom was sort of a performer as well. She was a daredevil, and kind of was performed at World's Fairs and did all sorts of stuff as a diver, and as an worked with like an animal trainer and stuff. So she was kind of like out there herself, and that's how my father and her met, was at the Stewart Pier in Atlantic City.
That's funny. I was just going to mention that. Like, didn't they have the diving horse show there at one time?
That's right. Yep. My dad was my dad was the MC of the show.
Really?
And his father was the producer of the show. And my mom was one of the ladies, not the first, but one of the ladies that rode that diving horse. And so that's where she first met my dad. So we have a lot of history of, being performers. Yeah.
That's funny, because if you remember the movie Back to School, Rodney Dangerfield was the one that did the triple Lindy at Steel Pier.
The triple Lindy, that's it. I remember. Yeah, that's right. I do. I remember it well. Yeah, that was cool. I remember my parents seeing that and just getting a kick out of that being mentioned to be part of his shtick.
Matter of fact, I think what was his name? Ed. There was another guy that hosted the show too. I can't think of it now, but I'm showing my age, but Ed something.
You still young.
It'll come to us like halfway through. We'll just be, it was Ed. That's always how it goes. Yeah, but it's
interesting.
It's nice for me. I discovered things sort of late. My grandparents, I didn't really know well. There was they were older parents for their generation, so I didn't really know them as well as I would have liked to. I was just real, just a toddler, so I didn't grow up knowing that. But when I researched and I just looked into it a little further, they had a really interesting career. Especially on my dad's side of the family, his whole family just made of performers.
Nice.
Now, by you starting early in music, and how did that bring you to the point where you were on the board of the Grammys or the board of the Philadelphia Orchestra?
Yeah. Well, um, the somebody asked me to perform at a local function for recording artists that was put on by the Recording Academy, which is partially the Grammys. And I first got connected by just being a performer, which, by the way, performing for other performers is just like, probably is like they couldn't be less interested. Yeah, it's nerve wracking, and they're probably like the least, interested audience sometimes. But that's how I first got connected, and I really liked what they were doing, and I liked, the Grammy Awards are one part of what they do, but they do a lot of educational pieces, and they work on legislation for performer and creative rights, and they just support, they have a branch called Music Cares where they support musicians in need through all sorts of situations. And I just really, really liked what they were doing. So I kind of joined, and I spent some time and just kind of, little by little kind of got into the governance area of what they do. And again, another amazing side thing that's come from the fact that I have chosen this career. But yeah, that was really nice. And the orchestra, I got involved with the board of the orchestra. Mostly, I think, it's such a great institution, and just a treasure of Philadelphia. And I know how much my father loved it. So I kind of wanted to, I kind of did that in his honor and with him in mind, wanting to throw my support there. But any arts in Philadelphia, I'm 100% behind, and
Right.
I think it's just the greatest, and I think it's especially for the education part of both of those organizations, sort of reaching out to young people and getting them involved in music and the arts, because it's not really the top of the list of things that schools can afford to keep a lot of times. And so the fact that they're out there working with young people and with students, it's really, really important, because, music has been such a lifeline for me. It's been such a gift, and has, saved me in so many ways, and uplifted me in so many ways. And so I just feel, Al, you know this, just to have that in you is, just really special, and how powerful it can be.
Yes, absolutely.
So, for young kids to not get the chance to do that, I think it's really, really a shame. So we have to really support the programs and the people that are doing this for a living, and the fact that they're reaching out to others and trying to just pass on that love and that passion. Much like I'm looking at your jersey, much like I feel like with the Ed Snyder youth hockey,
right,
which he founded to, sort of bring the game. There were a bunch of rundown rinks in the city, and Ed Snyder, who was the founder and owner of the team, restored these rinks and offered, free hockey and gear to kids that, never would have gotten on the ice, and it's turned into this sort of incredible route for young people. So I like to get involved with things that kind of pass it on, to pass on that goodwill and to pass on the love of something that you do, or a sport that you love,
Well,
Now, go ahead, Mike.
No, go ahead.
Speaking of passion, you have a passion for charity. So talk about Moms Demand Action.
Well, I being a mom now, has opened my eyes, and as every parent will tell you, you think differently and you see things differently. But I just, the fact that we have school shootings just blows my mind. I can't, I feel for every parent who has to send their kid to school and just, have this thought in their mind where kids have to practice shooting drills and on all this stuff. And so Moms Demand Action was, one of the many great groups that are around, just trying to aid in that situation so young people don't ever have to face that. It's an unfortunate fact of our world that we're in right now. But as a parent, I guess in the 50s when they would have drills where people would hide under their desks for nuclear weapons,
Yes.
that's kind of terrifying. But and it's just, kids shouldn't have to think of those things, and you shouldn't be a parent that's, arming your kids with cell phones and all these things at school because, you're afraid that you'll be out of contact and what if, and, it's happened. It's not one specific kind of place or neighborhood or, kind of student, but it's everywhere and anywhere. And so I think this is just one of the many great groups that are trying to find solutions, to keep kids safe.
Laurie, could you
and that is a passion of mine, a big passion, Yeah.
Laurie, could you touch on your 4 children that you adopted?
Yes, I can, gladly. I have 4, not so little anymore, but 4 kids that were born in Ethiopia. My husband and I, like I said earlier, he's in the coffee business. So Ethiopia is the birthplace of coffee. And so we had been there quite a few times, sourcing coffee beans and traveling the country. And, when we were deciding to have a family, that was just how we chose to build it, and they're really amazing kids. And they've done so many, have so many great accomplishments. And, it was kind of our in our minds that, this business of coffee or in general would keep them connected to their birthplace, one day as adults, if they wanted to, sort of take over those reins or find a way to use it to give back to their own original country. We thought that would just be the coolest. But really, it really boils down that we wanted to make a family, and that's just how we chose to build it, and they're the best, awesomest, greatest things, as any mom or dad will say about their kids, ever. And they're all huge hockey fans, which is an extra bonus.
Yes.
Yeah. And my youngest son, he plays hockey. And it just gives me like great joy to see him skating out there in his little Flyers jersey. And,
I saw an interview that you did, I guess, within the last year where you sang the national anthem at your son's hockey game.
I did. Yes, it's so cute. I've done it a few times for him and for his team. And it's just, like I said, we're passing on generations of the fact that music and this sport have come together, at all is just, so kind of crazy. You wouldn't ever think that there would have been a spot for me being a musician and artist at a hockey team. But as it turned out, yes, there is. And so it's all kind of connected and come full circle. So it gives me a new appreciation of all the things that I get to do.
Also tell us about the Gene Hart Memorial Fund.
Well, a guy, after my dad had passed away, a guy named Doc Mullins came to us and said, we want to do something to, honor your father. And, we could sort of give out scholarships in music and broadcasting. And Doc created this golf tournament, which lasted more than a decade. But what it did was set up scholarships at Temple University for kids that want to get into music or want to get into sports and broadcasting. And so have helped a bunch of young people over the years again. I think my dad and my mom, aside from the performing side of them, they were both teachers. And I think that kind of, really resonates with me again to, when you've gotten gifts or you've gotten to do certain things to sort of pass it on to young people. So, I think I get them that sort of, interest in doing things for young people from them.
I don't know what year this was, but you won Humanitarian of the Year for the American Red Cross. Can you touch on that?
Yes. So, I mean, well, I went through a pretty public battle with cancer. I had lymphoma right after my father had passed away from cancer. So that was pretty, I got diagnosed. That was pretty shocking to not only me and my family, because I felt like too young to have anything like that ever happen, as anyone that's gone through it will say. But I just feel like people really stepped up for me, people I didn't even know, with notes of encouragement and just support, and it really meant so much to me. It really got me through, just having people care. So I kind of, people deal with it in different ways, but to me, after I had gone through this and I knew that I was in remission and that I was recovering, I was just determined to pass that on, and
Right.
be supportive of others, because it doesn't take much to, to write a note or make a phone call or give words of encouragement and kindness. Sadly, I know when I went through treatment, I saw a lot of people that were there just completely alone, going through this thing alone. And I was just like, I just wanted to be, I just wanted to be like a peer, a friend, a buddy, to anyone that, wanted it. And so I committed to that, and over the years have done a lot of peer counseling and support of research, and our hospitals around here who just do an incredible job with, sort of getting us and inching us closer to, maybe finding cures for all these things one day. So I hope that I see that.
That would be great.
It would be, yeah. I don't remember, maybe it wasn't as public. I don't remember growing up and seeing people's moms with cancer. It just wasn't as prevalent. It didn't seem like that to me. And now it feels like everyone has someone who has gone through it, who has a sister or a brother or father or their best friend. I mean, it's right there, Yeah. So, but Philly and the doctors and the researchers here are just the best, and they're, every day they're making steps towards, giving people longer lives and better lives. And, it wasn't long ago that people went through this and didn't have great outcomes, and we still don't know. So we still don't know so much, but what we do know is people are living long-term now. And that's, that is just unbelievable. And, hopefully it just gets better and better, and we know more and more.
Just heard over the years, like, no matter if it was children or adults coming to Philadelphia, for children, Children's Hospital, and just Philadelphia just always had that reputation for having some of the best doctors,
having great care, great doctors here, and there are a lot of and there are a lot of great organizations in the area. From we're talking about Friends of the Red Cross, but there's a group called Headstrong, who born in this area, in the Philadelphia area, who because people, like you said, come from out of town or come from distance to get treatment here, to have their kids be treated here or something. So they provide everything from like housing to just the little everyday support that people need just to get here and get treated. So, there's so many groups like that. That one just stands out to me in particular. But, we think about the big things and the cures and the huge successes, but, the little everyday things that people need, a place to stay.
The necessities.
The necessities of just money for gas to drive here, So, it's hard enough to face things like that, just the disease itself. But, when you think of, the world just kind of, when that happens to your family, the world just kind of stops. And all those little everyday things are so important. So it's a really cool thing that people are just, thinking of those simple little things and what a big difference and what a long way that goes. Yeah.
Yeah, I've been down that road myself in
Yeah.
'96 with a 14-year-old daughter that had leukemia, and we, spent a lot of time at Chops there in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, she didn't survive it, but still, there was a lot of people helping us along the way.
Yeah.
Even the Ronald McDonald House, Make-A-Wish Foundation, and
Yeah.
all of those little things help a family when they're going through something like that.
Yeah, they do. They really do. And just as a friend or a neighbor, you can't discount those small kindnesses that we do,
Mhm.
that we can do for one another, right? We
Right.
don't get together on a lot of things these days, right? We're kind of divided on so much, and
Mhm.
things
Right.
get so heated, but nobody is immune to this disease or this situation. And so in a weird way, um, you know, we're all connected by that. And it's not something that we ever wanted to be a part of, but we
Right.
all are sort of a part of. And I don't meet or know any people who can't relate to that.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Now, also, you've had a career in broadcasting, and you was a co-host at the Philadelphia NBC 10 show, and you
Yes.
also had your own show called All Heart. Tell us about that.
Sorry.
So, yeah, it was sort of like, I guess maybe other networks did that, but the Today Show and those sort of like morning,
Mhm.
variety hours or whatever, were bringing people in that weren't strictly like news journalists, because a lot
Mhm.
of stuff that you're doing is kind of just light and fun in the morning. And so, these heavyweight journalists with this stuff didn't always add up. So they'd bring people kind of from the outside, and NBC here in town asked me to come and co-host a couple times, and then that turned into a permanent gig, and
Mhm.
with Bill Henley, who is still part of the NBC family over there, and
Right,
has
right.
just was an amazing. I just love that guy and love that I got the chance to work with him and do that. And it was just like the Today Show, the same kind of thing where
Mhm.
we had writers, authors, music, food, just a little bit of everything on there.
Right.
And we shot it downtown at the Lowe's Hotel. Um, yeah, it was really great. But I think ultimately, I you know, I really do like TV. I watched my dad do it for so many years,
Right.
Right.
watch how that camera went on and how he could just jump into a conversation or
Hmm.
just be really natural and comfortable with it. And I kind of think like all those years just watching it kind of rubbed off on me. So even though it wasn't something that I studied or practiced, it felt
Mhm.
really natural for me. And so I did that. For a while, I eventually wanted to go back to music full time because that was, for sure my first passion.
Right,
But
right.
a couple years later, I got the chance to do another show called All Heart, which was, just about things that I loved and,
Mhm.
music and
That's
kind of a
great.
little bit of everything. Yeah, so that was really fun. That was a really great experience for me.
Now,
Lauren, we got it.
speaking of your music, you at the time that I first did this research, it said you had 7 albums. Do you have any more since then?
Well, I did put out some holiday music. Yeah,
Mhm.
that's my most recent releases. I always wanted to do,
Okay.
people were like, why don't you do like Christmas songs and things like that? And
Mhm.
I thought, kind of everybody does that, but I ended up writing some original songs, and I wanted to just make like, classic kind of Christmassy holiday songs.
Right.
And had so much fun doing it with a partner of mine, Tony Reyes, who lives in the area and has just written and recorded with everybody on the planet. So he and I got together, and he's a big holiday fan as well, and so
Mm.
we finally got to put out some of those songs, and so that was a lot of fun.
Lauren, as far as your music career,
Yeah,
obviously that's your first love. Is there
yeah.
anyone who influenced you?
Oh
At a
my God.
young age or growing up.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I loved Whitney Houston. I
Mhm.
love Whitney Houston. I loved singers. I was always like, whether it was watching The Wizard of Oz and Judy Garland or Barbara Streisand or,
Right.
Whitney Houston. I just loved Aretha Franklin and Gladys Knight. I loved voices. I
Mhm.
loved great singers. And so that was always an inspiration to me. But as I got more and more into music, I was more drawn to the craft of writing songs and expressing, not
Mhm.
only singing but writing them as well. And I think I was a natural singer when I was young, but writing songs and orchestrating and all this stuff is something I learned along the way.
Right.
And just grew to love it equally to just being, if not more sometimes, than having to be the person in the front singing. I loved learning the engineering and the producing parts, and it just all kind of fits with me.
What was it like performing with Frank Sinatra?
That was like, I'm like, am I here? What world am I in?
Right.
And I I I early on was part of a stage, like a musical that
Mhm.
was in Monte Carlo, and I was
Okay.
one of the singers in this big, troupe of people that were part of this show. Um, but after we did a season of that, one of the producers there, everybody goes home, a lot of American singers and dancers, but one of the
Right.
producers there said, do you want to stay? And being sort of like a house opening act. And so at
Mhm.
that time, it was interesting because Europe, like at the time, Europe, like here, everything is so like in a pocket. It's like your
Mhm.
country or your metal or your R&B or your rap. Like everybody had to fit into a genre, whereas
Right.
there anything would go. So you could have Stan Getz and jazz, or you could have Michael Jackson, or you could like it all fit. So each week somebody new would come in, and I was like sort of the house opening act, and I just
Okay.
happened to be there when Frank Sinatra came through. And I think he was like at the end of sort of his career, and he probably wasn't at the top of his game, but he
Right.
was still like Frank Sinatra. And I
Right.
remember just sitting on the side of the stage watching him rehearse, and just one of the all-time greats. So that just, yeah,
I'm sure you had to
really,
pinch
really.
yourself just to,
Yeah,
seeing
I
Frank
did. Yeah.
Sinatra.
Yeah. I mean, there's not many people on the planet through time that have reached that stratosphere, that
Right.
sort of popularity and, you know, um, just, celebrity. And he was an amazing, artist, an amazing singer. So yeah, it was kind of magical. And so then during the show, I would go up and like sort of the catwalks over the stage, and I just sit there and watch him do the
Wow.
rest of his thing. And it was just really kind of, it was all very surreal because in Monte Carlo you have like princes and princesses, and so
Mm.
you're not only
Right.
seeing him on stage, but you're looking in the audience and seeing like royalty and other stars,
Right.
and it's just like, what planet am I on? I don't know, but
Mhm.
wherever it
That
was at the moment, I was like, this is the best thing
that
ever. Yeah.
that Philadelphia connection to
Yeah.
Grace Kelly.
Yeah,
Oh, big.
right. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Yep, very much so. Yeah, it's a beautiful, um tiny little, principality in the south of
Hmm.
France. And
Right.
I was probably just felt super, super lucky that I got to do that. As I
Right.
do with most every gig or every chance I get to do my thing, I feel super, super
That's
lucky.
All
So
right.
that was
that's
just one of
great.
those extra, extra, extra supersonic moments. Yeah.
Right.
Now, in this day and in this age, do you have moments where, let's say, you sitting somewhere, you're alone, or you just relaxing, and then you
Mhm.
think about the things that you have done and just bring that moment right back to you again?
Yes, absolutely. I often think, if I were to make a list right now of the things that I've done and the experiences that I've had, if I had given that to my 15-year-old self, I would have been like, thank you. I don't need to have anything else in my life. I've gotten all that I've ever wanted. And, you know, for people that make music or do this, there's always something else. There's always the next album or the next movie or the next. You know, you're kind of like, you're just capturing a moment and you're moving on, but collectively to think about all of those things together, I do reflect on that a lot because I'm like at a different place in my career now, and I'm more at the place where I get to choose the things that I want to do. And I've you know, I think I started, you know, everybody wants to be the biggest star on the planet that does music or is in the arts. They're like, oh, I'm going to rule the world, you know, but the real success of it is just the long game and just finding ways to do the thing that you love to do and pay your bills, you know, and hang out with other people who love what you love. And, you know, just make your own rules. And I think that that's something I'm very grateful for. And that now at this point in my career, I definitely make my own rules and I pick my own projects, and I don't feel I have to do every single thing. And I don't feel like at this point that I'm ever missing out. Like, geez, I really wish I got to do this or I didn't get to do that. I just feel really satisfied and happy with what's at hand, you know, and that's a good feeling.
Absolutely.
That's a good feeling. Yeah.
Lauren,
you know?
is there,
because that's all.
Oh, go ahead. Didn't mean to cut you off there.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, is there anything like outside the box that you would like to adventure in? Like, you mean you did music, you've done.
Yeah, I just, you know, I would love to do Broadway. I'd love to do like a Broadway show, but you know, now when I have my kids, you know, I just, again, that's a choice. I don't want to do like, you know, 8 shows a week and be gone all the time. You know, I want to be with my family and be a family person. So there's one of those things that you get to choose, that you don't have to choose one or the other. I think when I was younger and didn't have the family, it was all about me and where I was going and what I was doing. And, you know, once you have a family, your priorities change. And so, you know, that's kind of one of the things I thought I would like to do still. And, you know, I toyed with the idea of I can't even believe I'm saying this, because somebody asked me to run for Congress or, you know, and I thought for a second, I really pondered it, because I am very passionate about the issues and about people and everything. And, but having said that, you know, what you look at now is hardly anything, you know, like, I don't think I have the stomach for that game. You know, that's just, you know, that thing is a whole other animal and beast. And although I think I have, you know, like sort of the heart for having good issues and helping people and making a better place and all those things that we think it should be about, but it's just, I can't go down that road. But that is something that I did think about for like 5 minutes, and then I thought, not for me. I'd rather just do my community service, like one thing at a time, and it doesn't have to be recognized by anybody or anything. And I sort of like, I have been involved in, you know, like through the Grammys, and through the projects that I've done, like with legislation, to for performers' rights and artists' rights, and, you know, getting through COVID, where a lot of independent venues and artists really had a hard time for getting legislation to help those folks. And so, I think I'm still involved on the outside, and that is where I would like to stay.
Now, when you touch on music today, I know you go back to the artists from yesteryear, and they always talk about, like, you know, a lot of, you know, you look at some artists that went broke, they were only getting like so much per album. Would you say, I mean, just from what you've seen, is it a better business, or is it still kind of like a dirty business? Or
I don't I think it's always just the same. It's always
I
been
don't
the
know.
same.
I don't know if I can
It's
use the
like,
word
yeah,
dirty
it's,
business, but
well, well, I didn't say that, but yeah, I mean,
It
nah,
is what
but
it is, right?
but
it is what it is.
just like what you hear from different artists, like I can't really think of any off the top of my
Well,
head.
I mean, on one hand, like, the streaming music and Apple Music and Spotify and all that we
Right.
get to do, like us speaking here today,
Mhm.
technology is great and it really has, just leveled the playing field, which is good. That's a
Right.
good thing because artists and people can make music from their homes and put it out and maybe reach millions and millions of people. On
Right.
the other hand, people who are making that music and are, trying to make a living off these streams of, these places of streams, you're getting 5 million streams and you're going to get $1,000. So, I
Mhm.
mean, it's not, it's, if you want to make money and you don't go into that business, you got to do it just because you love it. And you hope that on the
Right.
other end, you can just pay your bills. And if anything more comes of it, well, then you've won the lottery. You
Right.
know,
Well,
when people ask me now, I always say, well, do you want to be a musician or do you want to be famous? These are two
Mhm.
different things that,
right.
you don't really think a lot about when you're starting. But at some point along the way, you just want to keep doing what you love. So, the music business, it's kind of the same. It's still,
Yeah.
it's not an easy game to be in. And, you just find ways to do the thing you love to do, like sing a national
Mhm.
anthem on the ice, 80,
Right.
40, 50
Absolutely.
times a year,
Right.
yeah, it's all, you know, it all is meaningful. And like, if you just, like I said, if you just get to pay your bills and make a living and you don't have to do 10 other jobs just to
Right.
get
Right.
by, then you're a winner. You've
Right.
won. So yeah.
Okay. Before we get out of here, just a couple more things. Out of your albums, which is your favorite?
Hmm. I would say that I don't know. Um, they all have special meaning to me, but I would
Mhm.
say probably, the one that sticks out to me like right off the bat is an album called Girl Keeps On, because I wrote
Okay.
that after I had been in treatment and
Hmm.
had gotten over my illness. And during that time, I had lost record deals and I had lost, gigs that I was supposed to be doing, and kind of everybody disappeared. And, I was determined to keep going,
Right.
and that album was about just keep going, keep looking ahead. And um, you don't know what the next day will bring. We talked about that movie earlier, Castaway, right? And
Right.
there was a great line in it. It's simple, but you don't know what the tide is going to bring. So you just have to keep breathing and keep moving. And that's what that album was about. And I feel like it resonated with me in a huge way, but also connected to a lot of people because of that
Mhm.
music.
I guess by you putting it that way, now that I'm looking at it, it makes perfect sense with what you went through.
Yeah,
Girl, keep
Hmm.
on.
that's
And
it.
I'm looking at some of uh, the titles: "Something of Mine," "Hold Me High,"
Yeah.
"Everything Under the
Yep.
Sun." It all fits. It all fits.
It does, and that "Hold Me High" was a song I had written, I written when I lost my dad, and
Mhm.
that was like sort of my first. It was I wrote that and recorded it for a movie called John Q, which was a Denzel
Mhm.
Washington movie. And it turned
Okay.
out at the end it got cut. It got
Mhm.
cut from the movie,
Mhm.
but it was the beginning piece of that album. So
Okay.
like I mentioned
Okay.
before, you never know what the next thing will be.
Mhm. Well,
Lauren,
when
I want.
go ahead,
Go ahead.
Mike. Go
No,
ahead,
go
Mike.
ahead.
You
I
got
didn't
it.
mean to call you off.
No, I was just going to say, when we talked about this last year, when I first started doing my research,
Nice.
I actually listened to just about all of your albums, and my favorite one was Love Like. I don't know
Oh, I
why, but
love that
I really
too.
love that one.
Oh, thank you. I love that
You're
one too.
welcome.
My kids like that one.
Hmm.
That's probably one of the more recent ones. And yeah, I always can judge if my kids like it or kids like it. I'm like, I'm good.
Hey, you got some.
I'm
Right.
okay. Yeah, I got something, right? That's it. Because they'll tell you straight up, I don't
Absolutely.
like that. You know?
They have no filter when it comes to stuff like
Uh-uh,
that.
They let
Go
you
ahead,
know.
Mike.
So when they give you a good reaction, then you're like, yay.
Or I want to touch on a little bit of some old Flyers history. We had Brian Propp on 2 weeks ago on our show, and
Love
wanted to
him.
ask wanted to ask you when you did an interview, you said you went to your senior prom and you were listening to the Flyers game on a Walkman.
hmm I was a
So that
Walkman,
was
ancient
old
history
school,
Walkman. Yeah.
right?
Um,
Um,
yeah, I'm a super Flyers fan. And I remember being a kid and watching Brian Propp. And, now we're kind of friendly. And like
right,
that group of people over there, those guys are super interconnected and family and have just been great friends and supporters of mine over the years. And, um, I guess if there's, one dream that is still yet to be accomplished is me being there when they bring that Stanley Cup back to Philly, if they could
Right.
do it.
right.
That's one of the things that I would be like, wow, I hope I get to see that happen. I've played it out in my mind millions of times that it actually happened. So,
Hmm.
um, you know, I'm manifesting that idea
I
that
hear
Right.
that
you.
cup will come to Philly. It will
That
come,
is seem to be going in the right direction.
doesn't it? Feeling
Hmm.
a little magic happening, feeling a
Right.
little magic starting to be born. So yeah, I'm
Because
really excited about the future and really grateful for all the friends I have and family from the past Flyers family. So
I, I just remember, your dad when the Flyers would score a goal for a case of tasty cake, and
that's it.
when he would sign off, he'd say good night and good hockey.
That's it. Good night, good hockey.
Is there
Yep.
is there a memory or a favorite player that you could say that stands out to you after all these years?
Oh wow.
If
Um,
you had the if you had to choose.
well, I love my man Bernie Perrant because I feel like he, there were a few guys, Joe Watson, Bob Kelly, Bernie Perrant, who were close to my father. And then when my dad wasn't there, they connected with me.
Right.
And Bernie's just one of those special guys because I can remember being a little kid sitting on his lap and he would show me
Wow.
his hands
Hmm.
because they were all like rough and calloused from, catching those pucks.
Right.
The gear and the stuff was a little, people weren't wearing helmets at that point. So, and I remember looking at his hands when I was a kid and he had that big Stanley covering on there. And I just was
Hmm.
like, wow, I thought he was the coolest. And then to grow up and become an adult and to be friends with him and his kids and his family. And he just
That's
reminded me
great.
he's just got that twinkle. He's got that twinkle in his eyes like my dad had. So I have a very special sort of place in my heart for him. But there are a lot of guys over the years. My dad got to be in the unique position. People
Hmm.
come and go and players come and go, but he was a constant. And
Right.
I kind of have that same place now. I've been around for a
Hmm.
minute, so I've seen a
Absolutely.
lot of great athletes come through and then move on to the next place. And, just
Well,
um, a lot of great memories, a lot of great memories.
well, if you really look at it, I mean, you had Harry Kalas, your dad, Merrill Reese,
Bill,
like,
Bill
you know,
Campbell. Yep.
right.
The greatest
Just
announcers
you
right
know,
here in Philly.
just fortunate to be that we're able to grow up in that era. That
That's
a lot
right.
of cities probably don't even get to witness.
Yeah, it's true. And broadcasters today, I guess you don't want to be, they would say, don't be a homer, like you're just rooting for
Right.
your team. But there was also something really special about that, because that's how you connected with the fans that were
Right.
listening to you night after night on the radio and on the television. Because I think that was part of my dad's really intrigue and connection, was that the fans knew, yeah, he was this personality larger than life and this television person and radio person, but they knew he was a fan, and they could feel it in his voice, and they could feel his excitement. And, you know, it's just, you know, broadcasters would have a lifetime with a team, whereas now, you know, it's kind of like all over the place.
Right.
You know, broadcasters do some games and not these games, and maybe the playoffs, but not the playoffs, you know.
Right.
So you get different people. So you sort of miss having your guy or gal in there that's taking you on that journey together, you know. And I think that's a little extra magical something that I think, you know, like you said, other cities and newer cities with newer teams won't get to experience.
Right.
We were really lucky here in Philadelphia with that great talent of broadcasters. And, you know, like even for our team now, Jim Jackson and Steve Coates, who recently retired, Tim Saunders, like we've had people that are just our guys. And that's kind of a cool thing. Yeah.
Well, if you really look at it, I mean, I know, you know, going back to the 70s, Flyers really started all this, you know, wave of championships, you know.
Yeah.
When your dad making that call, ladies and gentlemen, the Flyers are going to win the Stanley Cup. Like, one of the greatest calls ever in Philadelphia sports.
That's right. That's right.
That's just bringing out the passion in me now.
Yeah,
like how much is that played? I mean, it's like Merrill Reese calling the Eagles Super Bowl, or Harry Kalas. You know?
That's right. And it is. And, you know, when every year when the NHL playoffs are on TV and they put out their promo ads, you know, they'll often use that call. And it just gives me like the chills that he's remembered, and that call was so spectacular, and that toothless Bobby Clark smile will show up on the screen
when he's winking.
You know, when he's winking. That's right.
Him and Bernie
as one of
carrying it all.
Yeah, as one of the all-time great, not just moments here in Philadelphia, but for the sport of hockey. So
right.
Yeah, that's forever.
No.
Okay. Well, we're out of time. It has been wonderful. I thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
For
my
coming
pleasure.
on.
Fleet and Fuji. I love it. I'm
Absolutely.
so glad we got together.
Absolutely.
We got lots to talk about in the press room now.
Tomorrow night we'll be talking it up.
Please come back. Please come back
anytime.
All right.
Would love it.
So again, this has been At the 50 with Fuji and Fleet. And our very special guest today is Miss Lauren Hart, the national anthem singer for the Philadelphia Flyers. Thank you so much, Lauren.
Thank you, Lauren.
Thanks, guys. Thank you.
Have a good night. Happy holidays.
You too.
Merry Christmas.
All right.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Happy holiday.
Thank you.